Welcome back to Autism Live. Right now we're taking on 5 things that you can do to prevent summer slide. So what is summer slide? This is something that teachers are really familiar with. There's a period of time during the summer when our kids are usually out of school. For a lot of our kids that are on the autism spectrum, they are offered extended school years, so they might have 4 of the 8 to 10 weeks of summer when they're going to be in summer school. But even then, it's a reduced day, and then there are several more weeks where there is time off. What we know, what research has shown us with all kids, not just kids on the autism spectrum, but in particular kids on the autism spectrum, if we have worked to a point where we've got them in a routine and they're learning and they're growing, it's kind of like pizza dough, you know, you're pushing them out, and if you take your hands off of it, the pizza dough snaps back, right? That's summer slide. And so we see testing, and again, this is with neurotypical kids too, but even more so with our kiddos who are on the spectrum. If we test them at the end of the school year and see that they've gained skills and they've done well, and we don't do anything during that 8 to 10 weeks during the summer, they will lose up to 30% and more of what they've gained in that school year. So because summer slide is such a real thing, that even in total general education, when kids come back from summer break, the first 6 weeks now, the full first 6 weeks in the United States is devoted in all classrooms to relearning everything that they learned the year before. Obviously, it's in an accelerated platform because they're only taking 6 weeks to go over, review what they did the year before. But my point is that if our kids have come into the school process and they're behind because they were dealing with sensory issues, dealing with, you know, a deficit in at least 3 areas, if they got an autism spectrum diagnosis, they're behind to begin with. And we're desperately during the school year trying to catch them up and keep them up to speed with whatever needs to happen. And if the neurotypical kids have a little bit of a slide during the summer, that is an opportunity for our kids, tortoise in the hare, right, to catch up. And it's so crucial. As a former teacher, I don't want any kid to have summer slide, but the truth of the matter is for our kiddos that are on the autism spectrum, we cannot afford it. It's an ideal time to get ahead. But how do you do that in the summer? Especially if you don't have extended school year where you are, but even if you have extended school year. So we've got 5 things to center on that you can do a little bit every day that will help you have a good summer and to prevent slide. So tip number 1, what do you want to do? You want to read every single day. Now, it doesn't matter how old your child is. If you have a 6-week-old, read to your baby. Studies have shown how important it is to read to babies in the womb. So read every day with your kids. And it's different based on their skill level and based on their age, right? For kids who don't have reading skills, we want to help them, to make it reinforcing for them to sit with us and for us to, you know, if they like to be snuggled, to be snuggling them. If they don't like to be snuggled, putting them in a chair where they feel secure and safe. Let them pick at the point when they can, let them pick their book, but make it interactive. Don't just leave them on their own. Make sure that you build into their life that it's reinforcing for you to be with them and for them to be reading on their own. I always talk on the show about how I used to give my son, when he was little and so busy, he couldn't sit while I would read to him, but if I gave him a cold apple to hold, he'd try to bite it and try to lick it, and most times he couldn't, but because he just couldn't. It was a big apple and it was cold, but holding it made it possible for him to sit and listen to me read. When you read to your kids, make sure that you are taking on character voices. Have fun. Try out being an actor yourself. Point to things. Ask questions. From the littlest baby, add to the story. So if you're reading Pat the Bunny and you get them to pat the bunny, that's interactive, but put things in that make it uniquely yours. Whatever that might be. You might make a little bunny, I don't know, but make it your own, because that's what the child will interact with. With the little kids, make sure that you're doing that joint attention thing where you look at the book and then look at them. And that builds social skills. It's amazing what that does if we do enough of it when they're little. And if they're not looking at you, you can stroke their chin. You can be like, oh, make a big reaction, stroke their chin, and help them gently pull their chin so that they're looking somewhere at you, and give them whatever they like, if that's a squeeze or a tussle of their hair, so that you're making pairings of, I'm reading and I get the thing that I like. It grows and grows and grows and grows. When they're a little bit older, take turns. When they start to point to a word and spell it out for them and get them to repeat it. It's early reading. When they start to read, take their finger and have them point to the word. Ask them questions even then. Those higher functioning questions that come later on start in those younger years about, why is the dog doing that? You can ask that question. It doesn't have to have a right or wrong answer. When your kids are a little bit older, reinforce them for reading aloud. A lot of times we think, oh, so they're reading, so now hand them a book and walk away. If you get your kid to read out loud a paragraph every day, they will be better in social situations. It's just a fact. So, when they're reading on their own, great, reinforce them for it. Offer it not as a punishment, saying, you can't play your video games, you can't have screen time until you've read, but offer it as a reward. If you read for this amount of time, I will give you this amount of screen time. It's all in the semantics, right? But reading, we always just say reading is fundamental. Reading is fun, and reading helps our kids to grow on so many levels. So it's the cornerstone to everything. It helps with summer slide. But key things: reinforce, reinforce, reinforce. Pair reinforcement. If reading isn't reinforcing to them, pair something that is reinforcing. If that means sitting and eating chocolate while they're reading, I'm telling you, as long as you keep it on the healthy side, get your kids to think that reading is cool. Whatever it is that you need to do that. And reinforce yourself for having taken the time to do that.